All right, everybody. We got a few minutes before we really get started. This is a new show we're working on, guys. So appreciate you bearing with me. Uh, but we'll give it a few minutes. Make sure mic check, mic check. Let's take off the Bluetooth.
Should be ready to go. Take the Bluetooth headset off. All right, everybody. We got a few minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and let you know this is a new show. So skip the first few minutes if you need to till we really get into it. Once I get going more weekly, we'll start right on the money at 7. But I want to come on, always make sure everything's ready. Everything's ready to go. Uh, this is a new show called Beef Tips and Topics. And what that means, guys, is we'll have either tips that I'm telling you about with figure collecting, wrestling, whatever, and the topics. We'll have polls up every week. I think on Friday the poll will go up. You'll have two topics to choose from. We had that last week, and the two topics were the biggest what ifs in wrestling, or the differences between McFarlane, DC Multiverse, or Hasbro Marvel Legends. The one who did win was the biggest what ifs in wrestling. Now this is gonna be start out to be a 30-minute show, but if we go long, we go long. We have an hour allotted if we need it, but we'll see where we get and where we go from here. So thank everybody who voted in the polls. Thank y'all for coming in. Hopefully y'all didn't forget, but if you did, in 12 hours you can rewatch the show. It is all live, uncut, unedited. What you see is what you get. If you don't know who I am Dros Beef. I'm over on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Clapper. I'm either Dros Beef or A Flair for Toys. So make sure you're following me. Always keep your notifications on and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get this thing going, guys. Once again, is right at 7 o'clock. Welcome to Beef Tips and Topics. And the topic for today is biggest what ifs in professional wrestling. So, y'all who are here live or coming in live, you can put out your comments. We will talk about those if I think they're good enough for a few minutes. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. Now, I know everybody, especially at this time and date, really not a lot of people the biggest Hulk Hogan fans. So we're going to talk probably about 3 that involve Hogan, but most of them have him not included. So the first one to me, because it all started with Hulkamania and WrestleMania. Now, if y'all don't know the story, the Iron Sheik was offered $100,000 by Vern Gagne to break Hogan's leg. So let's talk about that and think about that for a minute. Um, what if the Iron Sheik would have took him up on his offer? Uh, so when Hogan goes to defeat Sheik for the belt, Sheik shoots on him and breaks his leg. Now, do I believe that this happened? Yes. Do I believe that Sheik ever really put any thought into it? No. Because I know 100 grand sounds like a lot, and even back then, but just the amount of money that Iron Sheik was still going to make with the company and in the wrestling business, he probably never would have had a job again. Probably not anymore in the WWE, especially if he went off script and did do that shoot and did that. We still probably get Hulkamania with that, by the way. I think it maybe just prolongs it a little bit. But everybody who is in here live, thank you for coming by and interacting with the show. I want to make this really interactive. I'll go a few more minutes just on this, but I don't think it would have been good business for the Sheik. And in the long run, even if it would have happened, I mean, yeah, granted, the Sheik probably could have went and worked for Vern, but how long was that going to last? A few more years? Uh, and no discredit to Vern. Vern was a good guy, but he just held on too long. The business was falling away from him. Um, and he's the one that made the mistake by not putting the title on Hogan in the beginning when he had him in AWA. Um, or Hogan may have not have left. Now he probably still would have, because I think Vince would have been able to offer more money. But that's how we ended up, and we still got Hulkamania because that did not happen. So I don't think that's too big of a what if, because even though people have talked about it, I don't think it actually happens. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, let's go on to another one that involves Hulk. And this is even before the Iron Sheik. I probably should have put this one so we could have went in order, but we'll skip around. But what if Hulk Hogan was not the guy? You know, if y'all do not know this, Dusty Rhodes was offered that spot by Vince in the beginning. Vince wanted Dusty to be his champion. You know, we could have had Dusty Mania, baby, if you will. We all would have been sons of plumbers. You know what I'm saying, Jack? You wouldn't have had Hulk Hogan and all this red and yellow. You would have had me without the polka dots, daddy. But I think, and no discredit to Dusty, because Dusty was great. But I think Dusty was really great because of the territory that he was really in. I don't know. I'm not saying he couldn't have got over in Madison Square Garden. I know he was there for a while. But I think being that southern type of guy, it related more down here in Georgia, the Carolinas, Texas kind of area more than it did in the New York areas. So I don't know. Not saying Dusty couldn't have, because Dusty was a way better talker than Hogan and way better in the ring. But that one I would have liked to seen what could have happened, because Dusty was great. Now, a lot of us didn't get to see the great Dusty because Dusty was getting older. Now, some of us that are my age, Running Lights age, horror comic nuts age, might have got to see the Flair and Dusty and Harley Race and all that. The Terry Funks, which I didn't even really get to see the Terry Funk and Dusty's. You know, I've watched it, but I didn't get to see it at the time. Um, but yeah, I think so, Running Lights. I don't know if it would have boosted as much, you know? Not saying that he couldn't do it, because Dusty's Dusty, you know. He's the second most recognizable athlete in the entire world. Only second to Brother Love. Anyway, that's another story for another day if y'all hadn't heard that story. But he usually said he was the second most recognizable athlete, only second to Muhammad Ali. But Dusty was great, but I don't know how that would have worked. Now let's get to the third one, and please put in your ideas, opinions. Hey, Adrian, welcome in, my man. So we've already went over what if Hogan got his leg broke by the Iron Sheik. I don't think that was ever really an option that anybody thought of except for maybe Vern, you know. And then what if Dusty was the man instead of Hulk Hogan? I don't know how well that would have taken off. Even though Dusty was great, New York's just a different crowd, you know. That New York, Philly crowd, and no offense to any of y'all from there, it's kind of rough, man. You guys are rough. You know, y'all like that EC type of stuff. But let's get into what if Hulk Hogan was not the third man in the NWO. Now, I do not think it would have been Mabel, even though that was one of Dave Meltzer's saying back in the day. But, you know, Dave Meltzer had lost his mind back then before he ever did today with his 7 stars. But this is not bashing Dave Meltzer, not this time. That may be a topic for another day. Maybe we can do a topic on my opinions on Tony Khan and Dave Meltzer, but not for this show. So let's just think a few minutes. Who realistically, now I know they wanted it to be Sting, but guys, however much y'all like Sting, Sting could not have carried the NWO. It couldn't have worked, bro. It may have worked for a month or two, at best, but I don't even think that. Sting is not a heel. I know he was one time supposedly for a few minutes with the main event Mafia or whatever, if anybody was even watching TNA back then, but he still wasn't a heel, you know? I don't think Sting knows how to be a heel. And that's not me down in Sting. Sting was great, you know. It wasn't one of my favorites, but he was good. He could do everything you wanted him to do, I think, except be a heel. Like, even when they tried to put him in the Horseman, and I guess they were going to basically turn the Horseman babyface, it wasn't going to work. So quickly they turned on him right there. But here's my thought on it. I don't know who else it could have been that they really had over there. I think they would have had to brought somebody in. Now, honestly, y'all tell me what you think. I think this could have worked, even though I don't think he was there yet when it happened. But if you could have pushed it back a little bit, if Brett would have just came in and went right to TV or to a pay-per-view, I think Brett could have pulled that off. I think Bret the Hitman Hart could have led the NWO with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. Y'all put one in the chats if y'all agree with me. Two if you don't. I don't think anybody else though that was already on the roster. I don't think. I know Savage could do it, but I don't know if we all look at Savage as like a leader type. You know, he's the wild, crazy guy and all that, but I don't think he could have held the leadership role. You know what I mean? So give me some other names. Is there any other names you could think of? And what do y'all think? Put ones in the chats, either the number one or the finger one up if you think Bret the Hitman Hart could have led the NWO. Warrior, no, Warrior couldn't have done it, man. Warrior, even though I think Warrior could have been a heel because enough people didn't like him already by that time, you know. But no, Warrior could barely get along with himself to be able to run a group and be the top heel. Now, the fact that Hogan was a great fit. I'm not saying he wasn't. Hogan, wherever you think of him now, Hogan was a great fit. I always thought, even back in the day when Hulkamania was running wild, I always thought Hogan wrestled like a heel anyway. You know what baby faces really actually cheated to get back at their opponents? Not really any of them, but Hogan. Hogan would be scratching people's backs and pulling them out of rumbles and all that stuff. So I don't know if maybe y'all don't remember that or nobody caught on to that. I knew this when I was a kid, bro. I was saying this to everybody. That's why at that point in time I was on the Warrior train. Even though Warrior didn't have the wrestling and stuff, we were just tired of Hogan and his shenanigans, which everybody is now. It just took a lot longer for everybody to catch up to it than some of us. But I don't know what that means. But so I mean, if there's anybody else you can think of, throw it out there. If not, we'll move on to something else. Uh, yeah, and he'll always have that personality, but he's like a lot of people. I think the more fame and money they get and older they get, sometimes they get a little cuckoo. Him and his all-American beer, but all right. Let's see now. Before I get into a big one, and this could have been a big one. I don't know if a lot of y'all are gonna know this, so I'm gonna put this out here. We all know how big the Road Warriors were, and even still are to some people. The Road Warrior pop was freaking huge. Nobody's disputing any of that. But what if Matt Bourne didn't get fired or leave NWA WCW back in the day? We never would have got the Road Warriors, guys. Matt Bourne and Iron Anderson were supposed to be the new heel team for Dusty and them over there. Or Ole. Dusty, I don't think Dusty had the book then. Ole Anderson. Yes. So we may have never got the Road Warriors because the Road Warriors were separate. They found them, said they looked alike, brought them together, made their outfits. Boom. They showed up as heels. We may have not got that. See, this is those what ifs I'm telling you about, guys, that a lot of y'all may not know. If Matt Bourne doesn't go cuckoo, which he went cuckoo a lot of different times, but Matt Bourne and Iron Anderson were going to be the top heels in Crockett or Georgia or whatever it was at the time, we may have never had the Road Warriors invented. I know we don't want to think about that because those guys were over. I mean, they were just big, nasty dudes. Now, think of this too. What if the Road Warriors don't come out in the 80s? If the Road Warriors don't come out till, say, 96, 97, are they as over now as they would have been then? I don't think so. Yeah, exactly. It's like the Darwin effect in life. You know, where every action, there's a positive and negative reaction. You know what I mean? All right, RV, appreciate you coming in, man. Oh, all right. I appreciate it. Well, thank everybody who showed up, who's showing up. Like I said, if you didn't get to see this or you don't get to finish it all, in 12 hours, it should reload and you can watch this episode again. So, all right, let's get off of that one. I know nobody wants to really think about the Road Warriors not being around. Here's another one that's really close to me, and it's about, because I'm from Texas, and it really hurts my heart when we talk about it, about the Von Erichs. What if the Von Erichs were not cursed? You know, would they have still been around? Would they all eventually have closed up shop and went to work for Vince, for WCW? I really believe if the curse thing doesn't happen, I think you still get the territories a couple more years into it before they started dying out and then changing into like USWA and stuff like that. Now, I know this may be going back for a lot of people, and that might be a little deep cut, but I know WCCW would still not be around because all the territories are eventually going to go under because Vince's going to bury everybody. It's just the way it was. He just had more money, could get more leverage and bring more people over and just dilute the talent. But I would have just liked to have been able to see. Of course, nobody wanted to see what happened to the Von Erich boys, you know, but to see if they really could have, just how big of a dynasty could they have been given they just had 5 more years together. All of them. You know what I mean? I don't think the story. Yeah, but I'm just saying, if that wouldn't have happened to them, just think of what they could have done with 5 more years together. I know if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, but I think it'd be really good. It's just a shame what happened to him. Kevin's the only one left. I actually just met him again not too long ago. He signed my Kerry Von Erich Diamond Select figure and just, you know, I told him, I said, man, I just want to tell you you're one of my biggest inspirations because I don't know anybody else who could go through all that you went through and still be here and done, you know, been able to go on in life like you have with losing all that many people. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know, but that's what this is about. The biggest what ifs in wrestling. So here's another one. It's kind of a deep cut that some people may have not thought about, and it's not like a real big one when you look at it. But after I tell you what we may not have got because of it, you will understand. What if Public Enemy would have just came in and done the job and wouldn't have had an issue with the finish and took that beating by the APA or the acolytes, whatever they were at the time, you know, because they got the shit stomped out of them. And if if that doesn't happen, I can almost bet you that we do not get the Dudleys. If Public Enemy would have came in and worked out, WWE maybe does not get the Dudleys. They're almost the same kind of team and everything. You know how Vince is. Oh, we don't need two more cowboys. We got two cowboys. Goddamn, pal. Pronouns, pal. You know? So if Public Enemy comes in and does the job, we may never saw the Dudley Boys in the WWE. But I would like to hear some of y'all's topics. Y'all put them out there. I'll think about them. We'll discuss them as we go. I've got a few more in my head too. Two of the probably biggest ones to me is, and I'll bring this one up first. What if the curtain call never happened? Just think of all the stuff that we may have not have gotten from the curtain call. You know, yeah, we probably still would have gotten NWO out of it, maybe. But we probably never would have seen Stone Cold Steve Austin. You know, if the curtain call and the Montreal screw job don't happen, we don't get Stone Cold and we don't get heel Vince McMahon. And that is what made WWE be able to strive and take over WCW. We don't get any of that. Yeah, who knows? He might have still been Hunter Hearst Helmsley. You know, winning King of the Ring and stuff. I don't. The only thing I think with Vince Sr. leaving, which he was ready to retire anyway and told Vince to buy him out. The only thing that would have stopped pushed back maybe WrestleMania 1 and 2 back a little bit and stopped maybe some of the guys coming over there, because Vince Sr. wouldn't have let Vince go after everybody. He would have protected the territories. So the territories would have stayed a little longer or been bigger at the time. And didn't sell out. Yeah, I've actually got that on my topic, almost to that, but it's a little bit different, Chris. It's what if WCW won the war? And I gave this quite a bit of thought on this one. Just think of how good for the short term. Now, don't think long term, because I don't think it would have been able to hold up, and I'll tell you why. But in the short term, 6 months to a year, just think of what we could have got if WCW had won. Because none of the WWE at that time guys were on guaranteed contracts. So that means nobody would have been sitting at home. Nobody would have been waiting out for 2 years or 6 months collecting $750,000 checks for sitting at home. You would have had The Rock, Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, Mankind, Triple H, and many others, The Undertaker, going over against Hogan, Hall, Nash, Sting, Savage, Luger. I mean, good Lord, you could have got some stuff out of that. You could have had Sting versus Undertaker. You know what I mean? Yeah, Triple H was supposed to win King of the Ring, but he got pushed back a year. He still won it, though. But we would have never got Stone Cold out of that. But it would have been great for Flair, exactly. The Horsemen, all that stuff. I mean, there's so many good matches up that you could have made. Now, they would have probably had to cut a few people. Might have been way too many people for the roster because Vince didn't bring that many over. But everybody was sitting there getting paychecks. That's why by the time they did the invasion angle, There was nobody. They should have waited to do the invasion angle the other way. You know, there was nobody there to make a big splash. I'm sorry, no offense to Booker T and DDP, but it just wasn't the big names. I mean, nobody was worried about Chuck Palumbo and, you know, whatever the mother got, Meat or whatever, Sean Stasiak, and you're not worried about them guys. You know what I mean? Uh, but yeah, it could have been real fun for 6 months to a year. But I just don't think that the way WCW was run, that they would have been able to sustain it. You know? And then probably what would have happened was somebody like TNA would have came around and probably pushed WCW out. But if WWE wasn't around anymore, or who knows, we could have had Tony Khan 20 years earlier and he bought it. Good Lord, I'd hate to see the booking on that. I think Tony Khan would be the only guy that could have messed up that booking if WCW would have won the war and went to WWE. Or WWE lost and went to WCW. But anyway, we're not gonna bash Tony Khan, not yet. Uh yeah, and that is a good one too. We talked about that earlier, me and a buddy of mine. What if another what if is what if Eddie Guerrero passed? Now, this is not, please do not take offense to this, but this doesn't mean as much as you think. The only thing really, really major that would have came from that is Rey Mysterio never would have won the Rumble. He never would have won the title. I'm telling you right now, 619 would have been calling 911 because his career would have never went that high if they couldn't have used the Eddie Guerrero part of it. Now I like that one. You know, what if Tony Khan knew how to book? If Tony Khan knew how to book, I would watch AEW. Uh, I would. Maybe not live, but I would watch it. But that is a good one, Zay. Yeah, man. And I kind of feel bad sometimes bashing on Tony Khan because I want his company to succeed. I want all wrestling companies to succeed. But, I mean, I kind of feel like Jim Cornette did. I never really had, I'll be honest with you, and I know it's just because of the money he has, but I am surprised it has lasted this long because he just doesn't have the mentality for it. He don't want to break down and can't find the right bookers, and he was just bringing in a lot of the wrong people. If by the time when he had Cody and then Punk and was getting some of these other guys, just look at this right here. Look, since we're doing what ifs, I know most of it we're trying to go back, but let's move forward. Let's go from right now. If Tony Khan got in a booker who knew what he was doing, like me and Ronzilla, uh, and let us trim down the roster, and we could go back and pull Cody and Punk back. We can have Cody, Punk, the Hurt Syndicate. We never would have had MJF fall off. I don't know how you take one of the greatest stars in wrestling history and make it where people don't want to watch him anymore. And we get rid of Twinkle Toes and Riho and the Young Bucks and the Chuckle Fucks and all the best friends and you were my best friend and all that and the Dork Order, and man, we AEW would be on point right now. You know what I mean? Uh, yeah, I can see that. We wouldn't have Dirty Dom today, probably not. Hey, I appreciate that, but I don't know if I can handle working with Tony Khan and a couple of them other little Fruit Loops they got over there. Yeah, but I mean, hell, we see how their football team is. Their football team's worse than the Jets and the Cowboys. So, I mean, I'm just saying, just think of the talent that came through there. If you just get rid of these people who thought they were somebody and they're not, Jungle Jack off, the young whatever they are, um, young bucks, super kick party machines, whatever they are, they're killing the business. Yeah, in the wrong way. Get them off TV. How can you take one of the greatest tag teams in FTR and Edge, which I never, we'll get to that in a minute, and make these people irrelevant? You got John Moxley over there with the dead presidents or whatever the name of that, the Death Riders. Well, what in the blue hell is going on over there? Some people do not deserve creative control. You know? But anyway, y'all done got me on one of my AEW rants. Let's save that for another topic, guys. Um, but some other good ones in here. What if WrestleMania wasn't a success? Well, if WrestleMania wasn't a success, the territories would have probably still been around at least a few more years. Vince might have closed up shop. Jim Crockett Promotions or WCW probably would have been the main franchise going forward. Uh, because Vince did put everything he had into it. You know, I mean, you got it. As much as the dude's a douchebag, you got to give him his props at the time for going all in and betting on himself. You know what I mean? I mean, he even put up his own house and everything to fund getting the thing done. So I got to give him props for that, for because that's a hell of a risk, you know, to have a family and all that stuff, and you know, put your house up as collateral. But hey, it paid off. You know what I mean? It- you know, I don't, as much as I didn't really care that much as WWE as a product, sometimes with Vince, I don't think the territories would have been able to go on too much more anyway. I think it was just a sign of the times that it was going away. You know, I mean, you were getting into TV and the pay per views. Not everybody would have been able to have their own. And I think at that time, if you didn't have TV, that you weren't going to be able to make it. I think that's one thing that helped WCCW out so much is because they had Channel 11, because they had a TV promotion. You know, a lot of these other ones that didn't have, if you didn't have TV time, unless you read the magazines, you really didn't know who they were. What if Owen Hart, you know, and I hate to really talk about this because I loved Owen. Everybody loves Owen. It was a real tragedy. But to be honest, I don't know how much in the way of changing stuff in wrestling that I don't think it would have made that big a difference, to be honest. I mean, would we have got a lot better content for some more years or whatever till his contract went out? Yes. But I mean, they were going back making him the Blue Blazer. I mean, even though I liked the Blue Blazer character, Owen Hart was too good on the mic to be behind the mask. So I'm not being insensitive to anybody. And, you know, I'm just shooting straight. There's a lot of these things, and I hate to say that way when we're talking about what if this happened with people passing away. But I don't think a lot of it really makes much difference sometimes. I mean, granted, we don't want them to go. We want them to be here. We want to see more from the talent. But I don't think Vince saw that much in him, really. I mean, you know, Vince never even really wanted to do the Brett versus Owen. Oh, brother versus brother doesn't sell. Nobody wants to see that, kid. What? That doesn't work? What brother versus brother do you know that doesn't fight? You know what I mean? But yeah, Vince was just silly in some of his ways, you know. But as much as we down him, he did give a lot of good stuff as well as some crappy stuff, you know. The whole Red Rooster gimmick. What if Terry Taylor was never the Red Rooster? You know what I mean? Uh, there's a lot of great talent out there, guys, and we could maybe make this a topic for one of the shows on if they should have been given a character or if they'd have just stayed the same. And like underrated stuff like that. We can make a topic on that, guys. Um, what if Cena got released? Ooh, oh man. See, now you're talking about a time where I was kind of really kind of getting out of wrestling. Um, man, you know, if he would have really had the mic skills, I think this would have been a good time to try to push. And I don't know, I ain't saying he would have been able to be on Cena's level because I don't think many people would have. But somebody that was around that time, maybe same time, maybe no, I guess that was later. Maybe he wasn't there yet. But I was gonna say maybe like a Shelton Benjamin or something. I think maybe Benjamin should have been pushed way better than he was. I think he got held down for being in a tag team and being with Angle, but Shelton Benjamin should have been pushed way better than what he was. Who else was there at the time? Batista wasn't ready. Um, what I guess Orton maybe. I guess Orton probably would have been the guy. My phone's being weird. Dub leaving figures at Walmart now. Okay. But don't leave them behind. Take them with you. Yeah, but just the Cena one would be crazy. I mean, I'd have to have the roster to really know because I don't really remember who exactly was on the roster right then and there. But I mean, that's the only ones I could think of would be somebody from OVW, either a Batista or Randy Orton, which I mean they became stars as well. I mean they just didn't get to that John Cena level. So, if you take out the Cena thing, maybe it is one of them. Maybe I'm probably gonna have to lean toward. Well, I want to say Randy Orton, but we all know Vince is a body guy, so it probably would have been Batista if we leave it up to Vince. Uh, yeah, the whole Stone Cold, that's what I was kind of talking about earlier with the curtain call. Um, but WWE, and I'm going to tell you guys real quick, this may be getting a little off topic, but the best things in wrestling that happen, the best things we remember, were not planned. It's just all stuff, and usually that's the best things that happens when something's organic, when it's not even planned. You know, the whole Austin thing with winning the King of the Ring, it wasn't planned for Austin to win King of the Ring. It was supposed to be Triple H, or at that time, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, which is a terrible gimmick for that guy. I'm surprised he made it through. I mean, I don't know what was worse, that or terrorizing. But but he made it through. He got the spot where he was gonna be the King of the Ring. Now, think of this. If if Johnny B. Bad, Mark Marrow, doesn't bust open Stone Cold and he goes to the hospital, he would have never seen Michael or none of them and found out anything. Michael Hayes is the one who told me, he said, hey man, he cut a promo on you talking, all this religious stuff or whatever, and then boom, it switched in Stone Cold's head and he did the interview with Stone Cold, and that was the birth of Austin 316. Says I just whipped your ass. So I mean, if Mark Merrill don't bust him open, who even knows if we get that? And everybody was against it at first, and then it just blew up to be probably the you know, most selling T-shirt, phrase ever. What if AJ Styles stayed in New Japan? I don't know that really. I don't know if that ever really affected anything. I mean, not saying that AJ is not a great talent. I liked AJ since the TNA days, but I know I probably would have liked it because maybe he would have kept Finn Balor and them over there too, so I wouldn't have had to see them. But uh, I'm not a Prince Devitt dude, man. I'm not a big fan. What else we got, guys? Let's see. Okay, somebody asked me this, and can't remember if it was my buddy Adrian or not, but somebody said we need to bring up the topic about what if the storyline went through where Vince McMahon had been murdered, uh, and where that storyline would have led. I don't know. I don't know exactly how that would have played out. I don't know if it would have got the attention and the reaction that everybody wanted. I think it's a good thing that it didn't happen. Uh, oh, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Um, I just don't know that people would have really bought into it and believed it. Now, it worked when like Vince was behind the whole Ministry of Darkness and the napping of Stephanie and all that stuff. That worked, but I don't know. I can't really plot that out because it's about like when the Texas fans didn't believe that Lance Von Erich was their cousin because we knew he wasn't. I don't think it's one thing to have like when Rikishi, ran over Stone Cold or whatever to do angles like that. But I don't know if people would have really bought into that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know how I would actually book that because I don't think I would have really wanted to entertain that idea, and I'm glad they talked them out of it. Um, I mean, but if you look at it, let's just look at it. What if wise? I mean, who could have been the one behind it? Besides him, maybe planning his own thing or something, or I guess you could say maybe it was Stephanie or Shane would probably be the best to me, and saying they were trying to take over. That would probably be the way I would do it because I don't think it really makes sense. What Stone Cold was just fed up and finally took him out or whatever. He could have already done that when he pulled the pew pew on him and all that stuff before. But it was funny seeing Vince pee his pants, whole piece of pants. That was cool. Hey, what's good, Mark? How you doing, man? Thanks for coming in. Welcome to Beef Tips and Topics. We are running over the biggest what ifs in wrestling. If anybody has one, put it out there. I'll kind of discuss it and give you my opinion behind it. I think we've went through most of them on my list so far. Um, I mean, we didn't really talk too much, but we talked a little bit. What if the Montreal screw job didn't happen? You're getting back into it. Where should you start? I'd probably say if you want to go back and start watching to kind of catch up, go back to last year's Survivor Series and just catch up a little bit there when CM Punk came back. That's probably where I would go back. I wouldn't go back that far. I mean, you could go back a little farther than that if you want to catch the bloodline stuff and everything. Uh, but we're talking what if, and that's if you're just trying to catch them on new. If you're really going back and want to see stuff, it depends where you left off. But you can always come hang out with us on Clapper every other Wednesday. We do watch alongs. Next Wednesday, we're watching the first ever Survivor Series from 1987. So make sure everybody puts that in their notes and comes watch it and hangs out with us. Yeah, I would just focus mainly on like the Cody Kevin stuff, maybe the CM Punk Rollins Drew McIntyre stuff. I mean, I don't think you need to worry about no Alpha Academy or the Wyatt Six or none of that junk. I wouldn't recommend any of that. I'd say fast forward that. 7 p.m. Central. That's when I do most of my shows, whether it's on Clapper, YouTube, or TikTok. We have Wrestling Wednesdays on TikTok, where we open up action figures and talk about them, and then every other Wednesday we switch back and forth between there and Clapper. Uh, so I was talking about the Montreal screw job. What if it didn't happen? Um, which I don't think it should have happened to begin with. I think Brett, I understand why it happened. You didn't want him leaving with the championship. But I honestly don't believe that Brett would do that. Brett had a really good. Brett kind of thought as Vince as his dad. So I don't think he would have done that. I know it's hard because, I know Jeff Jarrett supposedly held him up for money and all that. But here lately, what I found out, Jeff Jarrett didn't actually hold him up for that money. That was money that he was owed already. He just did that to get the money he was owed. So, there's always bits and pieces behind stuff that you're not privy to. You know what I mean? Um, but I don't think Brett would have done that. I don't think he would have took the belt to WCW. I think he would have won the title and then dropped it the next night to Shawn. He just didn't want to do it in Montreal. And I don't understand what the big issue was at. I mean, I would have trusted the guy and took him at his word, you know. But I other than that, I don't. I mean, he wasn't staying with the company anyway, so I don't know how big if that didn't happen. Well, I guess the biggest thing that would have happened if that didn't happen, we never get heel Vince McMahon because Vince McMahon never thought he was the heel anyway. He thought he was the baby face in the situation because all he was doing was Brett screwed Brett. And I was protecting my company. I couldn't let this guy leave with my belt and let Eric Bischoff get a hold of it so they could throw it in the trash like Medusa did. You know what I mean? Uh, yes, sir, Emma the U. It is going to be a great time over there, man. Survivor Series was one of my favorite pay-per-views back in the day. My first one is always the Royal Rumble, but Survivor Series was my second until they changed it up where they don't have the team versus team thing. So, yeah, man, y'all make sure to mark that on your calendar. Come hang out with me. We'll have a good time. If y'all got a few more, put them in here for what ifs. If not, I'm going to run down the rest of what we got to talk about, and we are going to get out of here. But I think we've had a really great show tonight. The first episode of Beef Tips and Topics. I don't know yet. I'll have to put the poll up. I don't know what the second topic is going to be, but one of the topics will be still up on the board to choose is Marvel Legends versus Multiverse McFarlane. We'll talk about the ins and outs, the pluses, the minuses, what's good here, what's good there. We'll show some figures. We'll talk about both companies a little bit. Some things they do good, some things they do bad. That'll be one option. I don't know what the other option is going to be yet. I'll try to come up with a topic and put it in the video. So I better be coming up with it quick because I usually put that out tomorrow. But if y'all have any suggestions for a topic, let me know. Oh yeah, the old stuff to me is the best to watch. I mean, I could go back and watch some of the newer stuff, but it just doesn't mean the same to me. I don't have the same, I guess, nostalgic feel like I do for the older stuff. Like for the Texas Tornadoes, the Ultimate Warriors, the Warlord, nowadays, okay, I'm gonna go back and watch Batista. I mean, it just, I don't know, it just, to me, it doesn't have the same ring to it, but Batista's all right. He better not give him credit for it, I guess. So if you have any ideas for another topic besides that one, put it in here. Let me know before I make my decisions and make a video tomorrow. But this real quick, I'll run down. This show will be every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central, right here on the YouTube. What's up, Joe? Little late than never, but hey, you caught the last few minutes. But we will do this show every week. Like I said, if you do miss it, wait 12 hours. You can watch it then. It should replay the whole episode. So this is the first episode of Beef Tips and Topics. But if you want to follow me on all the other platforms, I'm at Dudleyz Beef on TikTok and Clapper. I'm at capital A Flair for Toys right here on YouTube. over on Instagram, Facebook, but I don't hardly mess with Facebook. But come watch us. Monday nights, we do Marvel Monday, except for maybe this Monday. I'm not sure because I may not be back in time. Tuesdays, we usually do the interviews over on TikTok where I interview a fellow content creator. We did just have Running Lights on. Had a really good interview with him. Did a great job, Running Lights. Thank you for coming in. I'm still working on getting Kyle Peterson. I talked to him yesterday. We're looking at March time frame right now. I can't say what week yet, but hopefully in March, Kyle Peterson will be on the show with us. If y'all don't know by now, Kyle Peterson's like a kind of like I wouldn't say like a mentor or nothing, but kind of the one that kind of got me into doing this kind of stuff. Him and Dave from Displaying Model Behavior. And then Wednesdays, every other Wednesday. So this Wednesday we'll be on the Clapper at Dro's Beef watching Survivor Series 87. And then the Wednesday after, we will be back on TikTok and we'll be opening up action figures, which I just posted a video on TikTok a while ago that showed what we opened last night on Wrestling Wednesdays, and we always have a great time. So I think that's about all I got, guys. I appreciate everybody coming in here. Thank you for all the love, all the support. Follow me on all the avenues and byways and highways and all that in between. And I'm going to keep cutting and strutting like a young Brutus Beefcake. We the ones. And I may be leaving, but I'm still that uncultured heathen.